Today we are happy to have Bernice with us, and I welcome her to share with us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you this morning. I appreciate it. This is a talk that I gave initially for the Knox Cancer Care Program that is in Stratford. I was diagnosed with cancer at the beginning of February. March 25th was my first oncology appointment in London, and I learned that I was at an advanced stage of cancer, which means several months of chemo, no radiation, and a major surgery that would be coming. For me, my husband, and my sons, they are young, an extended family, it was a lot to process. And I want to share with you some of the themes that came through for me during this journey, during this year. Community, and that includes you. As soon as I learned of my diagnosis, I knew that I could not do it alone. I knew I needed to be open about this because I would need help. Sorry. I wanted my sons and my husband to get the support that they needed. One of the things, as I mentioned earlier, was the program, the Wig Room in Stratford, that really helped me. That my sister, who's an intrepid hairstylist, managed to find a connection that ended up being someone from the community, that I could get a wig. Not that I wore it that often, because you have no idea how hot a wig can be during the summer. But they were really helpful. But the thing that was really important is a program that's been around for 20 years, that it provides women that are in need of wigs, hair, whatever, support during their cancer journey, that they would have access to those resources. And it wasn't so much the wigs or the hats and that sort of thing. Similar to someone in our community said, Bernice, I think you need some interesting headscarves. She sewed me some incredibly beautiful headscarves, and I would always get these compliments on this interesting African fabric. But what it really represented for me was the love and the care and the compassion of people I hadn't even met yet that were doing these sorts of programs. This care during a vulnerable time was so important. You actually have to excuse me. I also had a very late night last night. I actually attended a community event in support of getting physicians to come to North Perth. The other theme that came out for me during my walk this past year was friends, family, and connection. As some of you know, I come from a large Dutch family of 4 sisters and 2 brothers who rallied immediately. I had 6 rounds of chemo, which were 3 weeks each cycle. People I didn't know very well from our community came up to me immediately and said, "You need a ride? Give me a call. I've been through this. I understand what your journey is." That meant so much. Felix actually wanted to be part of going. He was quite adamant that he wanted to attend all 6 sessions with me. However, my sisters decided otherwise. And so my sisters from Newfoundland and Alberta flew in. They would attend the sessions with me, and my youngest sister from Clinton and my oldest sister from Blythe also did the sessions as well. So poor Felix was only able to attend 1 session. However, he was quite firm that for all oncology appointments, that those were his responsibility. I know last fall, prior to diagnosis, I was hitting a bit of a slump because I was an empty nester trying to determine what I was going to do for this 3rd act in my life, because my life has centered around the boys, and thankfully they have, for the most part, flown the nest and are finding their own way. And to be honest with you, I was feeling a bit lonely and not quite as connected to my community. And I know some of you may identify with that as well, particularly because of the pandemic. Interestingly enough, my diagnosis changed that for me. It honestly would take ages, probably the entire time that we have here, to list all the wonderful things that people did for me and my family. Meals were brought, cards, emails, texts, mentions that I was in your prayers. I really felt the love, and I continue to feel that love. I didn't realize how much we value each other until people felt moved to be able to express that to me. And some people still continue to send me cards weekly or mention that I continue to be in their prayers. A former neighbor that I didn't know very well came over immediately with flowers and good advice and shared her journey with the same illness. It is overwhelming when you go there and they say, here, you're going to be taking chemo, you get a package that thick of all these serious grown-up things that happen to you during chemo. Some of you may know I'm a real reader, I'm a real researcher. I deliberately, highly unusual for me, left that package away. This neighbor, and I believe it's one of those divine intervention moments, this neighbor came and with flowers and said, hey, I've been through this, let me tell you my story. And it made it so much easier to go through that package. And that I realized that it wasn't quite as daunting as I thought it would be. A list of the people that wanted updates grew, so I actually put up a Facebook page called Bernice's Walk to Wellness. Because years ago in an FCC seminar, I heard a psychologist say, and I feel this with all my heart, that we are all here to walk each other home. And that resonates with me so deeply. And I decided that I wanted to walk towards wellness and that I would take other people with me on that journey as well, both to keep them informed about what was going on and to be open, and hopefully that they would learn from this and to be part of a community, and so that we could connect. Something that I feel over the past couple of years we have lost in some ways at a community, but I have, despite going through these challenges, it's something that I have really learned. Another theme that came, obviously, is the healthcare and the great people that work in our healthcare system. It can be hard to get into the medical system, but once you're in, let me tell you, I am in awe of the care, professionalism, and attention that I received and do continue to receive. I really feel that in our country, we do not recognize our medical professionals sufficiently, and I'm so humbled by the care and everything that they continue to do. It breaks my heart when I see at medical clinics, at the various places that I've been, signs of please be courteous and discourteous or unpleasant language is not tolerated, and that just breaks my heart because I have never met anything but people that are willing to surpass whatever their mandate is. For instance, my doctor, who was away on a family holiday, called me on a Friday night to tell me my initial diagnosis. She knows I'm a researcher. She called me Friday night. By Sunday morning, I could go to Emerge and get a thick package for my research purposes, in terms to understand what my diagnosis was. And this is just one of the examples of her and other people that have gone above and beyond to extraordinary lengths to assist me. And these are people that have chosen to practice in a rural area, which is why we supported the ag dinner last night that is attempting to collect funds for physician recruitment. Rural healthcare was also a theme that was important to me. Healthcare itself is important, but the rural care that we are able to receive here. My oncologist was kind enough to offer chemo London, Stratford, or Wingham. I selected Wingham because it was only 30 minutes from me. It's somehow ironic because that was also the hospital that I was born in 1962. And I was supposed to be born in November, I was born the end of September, and that hospital kept me and my twin brother alive, and we were in incubators for 6 weeks. So again, one of those divine intervention things where I felt like God was keeping me alive back then, 62 years ago, and again, now that I would be getting life-saving treatment here. And I can't tell you how wonderful those young women were. We were joking with the time that Felix came that if he had to disappear, that the nurse was, don't worry, I can drop you off. You don't get that everywhere. It's a small program there, but they're trained oncology nurses who work with the local family physician to make sure that you're doing well during your treatment right there, and my oncologist to provide maximum care. And I stress all three of those levels work together in concert to make sure that you get the best possible care. And all three of them should be recognized. And unfortunately, the way the system does is they're not necessarily recognized for their care, for what they do, and they're willing to do it on their own time. Also, we are so fortunate that I was so fortunate that I could get treatment only 30 minutes away. I can't imagine after 5 hours of getting chemo having to do a 2-hour drive home. So, and the reason why I'm stressing that is because I want us to be vigilant as a community, because so often there are people that want to change it or shortchange it or whatever. You have to take the courage to be vocal, to protect the services that we do have in our community. The other theme that came through for me was faith and being positive. I am a worrier by natural inclination, and that's why I married Felix, because he's incredibly positive. So we balanced each other out, and he's not a worrier. But I also had to rely on God in ways I'd never had to do before. I really had to give it up to God, because God is bigger than this. When I was first diagnosed in those early mornings, for whatever reason, the thing that first popped into my head was not why me, but this is the day that the Lord hath made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. And the other theme was, what can I learn from this? And that is a theme that is an ongoing thing for me. And I look around and I see for some of you that may be encountering health challenges or whatever, that is also a theme that probably resonates for you. Felix has reminded me that this is serious, but we both feel that being positive has made a significant difference. Mental health was also a theme that came out for me during my journey. There were some days where I would say I made it through these 24 hours, and that was tough. But now it's, aren't these 24 hours glorious? I can send my boys a text, a note, and tell them how much I love them and love on those I love. There was one point this summer that I hit a low point. At that point, I reached out for help. It was a tough year for me. At the end of December of last year, we lost a friend to ALS. My 95-year-old mother died in January. An old friend died from cancer. My second cousin died. And 2 friends were also diagnosed with cancer. And my favorite niece's young husband was battling a terminal blood disorder, which he eventually passed away in August. So it was a tough year this year. And I knew that I needed support. So when you go for chemo, there is a family doctor that goes around to each of you just to check to make sure that you're doing okay and that you're managing to cope with the medication. And so he had read this in my notes, and he said to me, he said, Bernice, look at it this way. You signed up for dance lessons, but your dance lessons are on the Titanic. So you have to figure out a way of how you're getting to shore. So reach out to local resources or whoever you're able to reach out to and maintain that help. For instance, I had asked at the family health team to see a counselor, and that was like, it takes forever to get in. But again, one of those divine intervention moments. It took over a year, but when I actually got into the counselor, it happened exactly at the time that I received my diagnosis. So we put aside the things that I wanted to discuss, and I had the support for 6 weeks of someone that could support me through this initial journey. And also the London Health Science Centre also offers social workers who could coach me and that sort of thing. We actually met last week, and she said, I don't think you need me quite as much right now. And I said, no, I don't think so. But we are doing a monthly check-in just to say, how are you? Where are you at? But when you're dealing with big life questions, faith was so instrumental in terms of trusting God and saying, I have to give this to you. And God continually helped. But there were also other ways that God helped me, was through these professionals that I talked to. Finally, some of the other things that I've learned in this journey is be kind to yourself. So often we are challenging ourselves or thinking, oh, we don't have these skills, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. Be kind to yourself and kind to each other. No, each day is truly a gift. For instance, yesterday, my highlight was baking Christmas cookies with my son who came home from Toronto. Thanks, Felix. I appreciate your help. Made it a lot easier. Get help when you need it. Particularly as women, so often we put the oxygen mask on other people first and not on ourselves. It is so important that you acknowledge that and get the help. There are resources. Going back to what I said about rural healthcare, it can be challenging, but stick with it. That leads into my next point, which is advocate for yourself. I'm not an aggressive person, and I'm not necessarily assertive, but I know that if I don't speak up, I could get lost in the mix. For instance, I was supposed to have gotten a call 2 weeks ago from my surgeon, and I was going to go, okay, should I let it wait? Well, I did call, found out that it hasn't gone through the steps that it's supposed to right now. And it's not being aggressive, it's not being unkind, it's just saying, hey, I'm here, I need that support, that help, that next step to happen. And the other note I have for myself is hold your ground, but nicely, of course. Our rural healthcare needs us to be advocates, and I want all of us to remember that. I'm so passionate about this. Actually, it was interesting, Esther Buck and I were talking about, I put a post on about being passionate about life, and she said, well, what are you passionate about? And I said, actually, just life in general, and I'm going to have to tell Esther that this is my passion, is rural healthcare in our communities. Sometimes you also have to adjust your expectations of what life is. I had a particular idea of what my future was going to be, this diagnosis, and I had a text exchange actually with Becky this morning, and she asked about what my diagnosis was, and I discussed it with her, and she said, well, it's a bit of a shadow, and it is, but I'm adjusting my expectations to life to that shadow. There has been loss, hair, what could be my future, but loss is a part of life, and that is something that I'm learning. Finally, what I'd like to share with you is how can you help? Some people, it took them maybe a little bit, and then they reached out and said, I don't want to intrude, but how are you doing? Please know that if someone is going through a situation, feel free to reach out. They will either not reach out or just say, thank you, your note came just at the right time when I needed someone to hear me. So don't be afraid of that. When you're, I can only speak for myself personally, but when you're in a situation like that, you can be so grateful for that. And that whatever it may be, we know that you are coming from a good place. So write that card, that email, that note, that text. It does mean more than you ever know. Food is always good, and you as a congregation are very good at that. Chocolate is even better. Actually, I hope you don't mind me saying this, Felix, but Felix reminded me that chocolate is not the healthiest option, but I still stand by that. Flower and plants are good too. So often you don't know what you can do, so just ask. Listening can also be really good. Remember, and this goes for so many of you that are also going through challenges, that it's a long-term journey. I was diagnosed, it started happening in February, diagnosed in March. I am grateful to share that at my last appointment, the doctor said that there's no evidence of disease at this point. But I do know that it's because I was diagnosed at an advanced stage that the specter is always there. But I'm still planning to be here for quite a while. And know that sharing your experience, and there are a number of you in this community that have shared your experience, and learning from your experience has been so helpful. So I want you to know that as a community that you have been so remarkable to both me and my family, and I thank you for that. You may think, oh, it's just a small thing to pray, or it's just a small thing to say, I'm thinking of you. It is larger than you ever know, and this is a remarkable community to be part of, and I want to say thank you so much for what you have done for me and my family, and thank you so much for listening to me this morning.